Okay, this is lecture number 3, and here I would start the lecture with a video, where you'll be seeing some microstructures of the steel itself. Steel is an alloy of iron and carbon, and if you remember, if we can able to change the microstructure of a steel, the property will be getting changed.
Great thing to know that you guys are fine, and I hope you are. So today's video we're gonna be talking about microstructure. So what I'm having here on my table, is 3 samples. These 3 samples originally were 1, right? So it came like that. You can check. This is rough. It came like that. After that, I went and polished to become like this, like a mirror. Then from there, I went and etched it lightly. Last time I showed how you can etch macro, but this is micro. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my machine here, which you call microscope. So with my microscope, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my micro there, then I'm gonna check the structure. And then from there, what I'm doing is I'm gonna put it at 100 magnification there, and then 200. Then there, I'm gonna check it and see how my structure is on the micro, in micro measurement. So now, I'm gonna put it on my screen. There we go. There's how my micro is. So this is a normal austenitic steel. So you can see, you can tell by the grain. So that's grain there. That's shape there as a hexagonal shape. 6 sides, that's how you can tell. So actually this is a typical stainless steel by telling that. So let's go together. I'm going to show you something here. So here you can see this is a ferrite and pellite structure. This kind of steel is the one that they use when they have to do railway martensitic structure. So martensite is the one that is hard most of the time. Martensite is hard. When you have to check the hardness of martensite, it's in the range of 60 HRC, 60 hardness Rockwell C. This one is used most of the time when you have to make knives, okay, weaponry. They use martensite most of the time. So this one here is austenite. So you can tell, as I said, you can tell by the grain, by the shape of the grain, you can tell if austenite steel. Check there. If you check, you can count the sides of this grain. You realize that there are 6, and then from there you can tell. So this one is a typical stainless steel, and then this one is used when in places where there's high chance of corrosion. That's where you use stainless steel. That's where you use austenitic steel. So austenitic steel is a face-centered structure. Martensite is a body-centered structure. Ferrite is body-centered structure. Okay. So now what I'm having here is dendritic structure. This one is seen mostly when you've welded the place. After welding the place, you can see that. You can see those ones, those white spots there, comes from the run of fluid metal. So they don't solidify at the same time. So what happens is they don't solidify at the same time. So they remain liquid until they solidify. And then you can see as if this kind of runs a kind of river. I forgot to say something here. With martensite, it's needle-like structure. When I'm saying needle-like structure, you can see it's like needle, like small needles there in the structure, like small needles there. So that's martensite. So this one here, what you see there, this ferrite, and then what you see there, that is pellite. So it's ferrite plus Pennite structure on this one, to the Martenstick structure on that one, to the austenitic structure in here, and then it's dendrite structure. That's the okay. So I hope that you guys like the video. Technicians as engineers, it's very good to know what structures are. In future, you might use or might be
Okay, so you people have seen those microstructures, right? Those are ferrites, those are ferrite and benite, martensite, and austenite. So you can able to see that different those are different phase, fine. The structure is different. So since in a steel we can have different phase, and we can say we have different microstructure, so property will be different, right? And as I told in earlier class, that microstructures are not easily visible through our naked eyes, right? We need to prepare a sample, we need to do polishing to produce a mirror finish surface, then we do etching with an acids or combination of acids. Finally, the microstructure will get revealed. We can able to see through using microscope, right? And we have different kinds of microscope available, like we have optical microscope where we use light, ordinary light, and we can have electron microscope where we have to use electrons to look at the microstructure. So those are basically scanning electron microscope and transmission electron microscope. They are having high resolution and high magnification also. Right? Anyways, when you visit VSSUT, then you can able to see scanning electron microscope and optical microscope. Optical microscope is there, is present in our department. And scanning electron microscope is there in your central research facility. Okay, so now let me show you some new things. Okay, I'll show you in the end of the class. I'll show you the precipitates, the inclusions, the porosity, which I have been talking about in the earlier class, right? Because all those things will affect the property of the steel or property of any engineering materials, right? Okay, so in the lecture number 3, I'll be discussing about two things, that is crystal structure affects property. So I would like to give few examples where you'll see that if there is a different in crystal structure, then property will be different for a same material, right? And further, I will be discussing on this different kind of engineering and advanced material, right? Since we are metallurgy people, so you should know what are different materials available and which material we can choose for a definite purpose or for a definite service, right? So selection of a material is very important. It is the first thing a metallurgist or a materials engineer should do, because if you are not good in selecting a particular material for a particular functional application or structural application, then that is a big issue, then right, you will be in trouble, because different materials have different nature or characteristics, right? Some materials have particular characteristics which will be absent in another material, right? So each material has some peculiar properties or characteristics which will be useful for that particular purpose, right? Anyways, so this is the examples: BCC iron versus FCC iron. So if you remember, once I told that if you have a steel or iron, right, basically both are same thing, but steel is sometimes superior because of alloying element present. Fine. So BCC iron basically means it is body center cubic iron. The iron atoms arranged in a body center cubic fashion. In FCC iron, the atoms of iron present in a face center cubic fashion. So difference here is what? Both are iron, but FCC iron is non-magnetic in nature. Right? It will not get attracted by the magnet. Right? It is, you can call it is not ferromagnetic, but BCC iron is basically ferromagnetic. But you have to remember the low temperature BCC iron is ferromagnetic. It will attract the magnet, or it will get attracted towards magnet. Fine. So okay, so now you can see both are same thing, but if the structure is different, the magnetic property is different. So do you have any idea about your kitchen utensils? What are those materials? The kitchen utensils? Can anybody tell me?
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel, very good. But that is also a steel. That is also a iron, right? The base material is iron. So have you ever tried yeah, with a magnet? Have you ever played with a magnet that if you bring a magnet close to your utensils, kitchen utensils, does it get attracted or it will not? Any answers from you?
Not attracted.
Doesn't get
No, sir.
attracted.
Doesn't get attracted. Very good. So can you tell me why? Just I have explained here.
It is BCC structure.
Yes, very good. I'm really happy with this answer because the T is a steel which have face-centered cubic structure. Right? That is basically called austenitic stainless steel. You have to remember, huh? Austenitic stainless steel. Austenitic stainless steel means that is a stainless steel having a phase called austenite, and that austenite have a crystal structure of face-centered cubic. I think you people have understood.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
That
sir.
means in another hand, if I have an stainless steel which is having BCC structure, then that will get attracted by the magnet, right? Anyways, so if you have further queries like how this structure has been changed, this structure has been changed due to addition of alloying elements. We have added some nickel into the much amount of nickel, like 8% nickel or more than that, which makes the structure FCC. Which this is not the right time to discuss. Okay, so am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now what I'm saying, yeah. So now another example I would like to give you. This is BCC iron and FCC iron. The property is diffusivity. So if you have remember, suppose your iron or steel is in BCC crystal structure, what will happen? This BCC crystal structure is a like open structure. The atoms have been arranged in such a fashion that some space is available, some more space is available. But in case of face-centered cubic iron, here the packing between the atoms is so close that it is a close packed structure, right? So BCC is an open packed structure, but FCC is a close packed structure in case of iron or steel, right? So that means the diffusivity property will be different. The diffusivity property will be more in case of BCC because it is an open structure. But where this can, in case of FCC iron, since it is a closed packed structure, the diffusivity is poor. A rate of diffusion will be less, right? So that means you understand by changing the crystal structure, we can change the diffusivity property, we can change the magnetic property. It is okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me very interesting example right now. This is a term called super alloy. Super alloy means it is just like Superman, right? Superman who can do some superior things which an ordinary man cannot do, right? So similarly, we can have alloys which are superior, superior in terms of their property. Which kind of property? High temperature property, basically. Because at high temperature, the alloy goes oxidation, which is a kind of one kind of failure, you can say. And another kind of thing is they undergo creep failure. That is another failure mechanism. Failure due to creep, failure due to oxidation. So this is not the right time to discuss much things, but you should know these points. Or it may get melt otherwise, right? Because of high temperature. Because every alloy have a particular melting point or particular, obviously, softening point, right? So super alloys are those alloys which can withstand high temperature. That means those alloys are put into application where temperature is very high, right? For example, let me give an example like making turbine blades, turbine blades of jet planes, these aeroplanes, right? This is one of the examples. So these alloys are basically three types: cobalt-based alloy. The base metal is cobalt, and alloying elements will be present. And one is nickel-based alloy. Nickel will be there, and other alloying element will be there. And one is iron-based alloy. So iron will be the main metal, and other alloying element will be present with the iron. Right? These are three kinds of super alloys: nickel-based, iron-based, cobalt-based. Right? But why, the question is why we cannot choose titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, tungsten based alloy? Because tungsten, molybdenum, vanadium, titanium have also very high melting point. The melting point is more than that of these substances: cobalt, nickel, and iron, basically. Suppose tungsten I'm talking about, molybdenum, vanadium, they have very high melting point. Can anybody guess something about this?
Because they are reactive.
Can you justify with this thing, this one, diffusivity? Actually, let me tell you the answer. Let me give you some hint. Diffusivity actually is a problem in case of high temperature alloys or super alloys. If super alloys are those alloys where diffusivity should be less, because at higher temperature, diffusivity is higher. If you raise the temperature of the material, the diffusivity will increase. But super alloys are those alloys which restrict this diffusivity property, right? So that the material will not get fail at high temperature. Can anybody guess now something? What should be different between this titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, tungsten, and what should with that of this nickel, iron, and cobalt? Okay, let me tell the answer. The nickel, cobalt, and iron have face-centered cubic structure at high temperature. But in case of titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, tungsten, they do not have. Basically, they have BCC structure, right? So now, what is the answer? since they have BCC structure, so what will happen? The diffusivity will be more in case of titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, tungsten, right? And if diffusivity will be more, so it will undergo failure easily. It fail at high temperature. Even if they have high melting point, that doesn't matter. What's matter? The matter is the crystal structures matter right now, right? So at high temperature, titanium, vanadium, molybdenum, tungsten, they have BCC crystal structure, which is an open structure, right? So diffusivity will be high at high temperature. So the material will get fail. So that's why we are using nickel, cobalt, iron, even if they have good melting point, but melting point is less than that of these elements or these metals. We are using nickel, cobalt, iron. Why? Because nickel, cobalt, iron have face-centered cubic structure, which is a closed pack structure. So diffusivity will be less or will be hindered at high temperature. I think you people have understood to this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So you should appreciate metallurgists, right? We are the people who have this kind of knowledge, right? Who, that's why we are designing or selecting such kind of material, right? So for a high temperature application, you can easily choose nickel based alloy, cobalt based alloy, and iron based alloy instead of those alloys which have very high melting point, right? Okay, anyways, and the other examples, carbon goes into octahedral void of ferrite, BCC, of steel or iron, and austenite, FCC, right? So carbon goes into octahedral void of this BCC iron and FCC iron, right? But still we get difference in strengthening. The strength that means in steel we are adding, suppose we have a BCC steel and FCC steel, and we are adding carbon into it. So carbon atom will go into the octahedral void in both cases, but still there is a difference in strengthening of BCC iron or BCC steel or FCC iron or FCC steel. There is a difference in strengthening. So this is not the right time to discuss those voids and all. We'll be discussing that in coming lectures, obviously. So do you
So I have a doubt.
Yes.
Sir, does the strengthening of the steel, like if it's BCC, does it affect on the actual product because of its structure?
No. Actual product, it will affect means the property can get affected, right? But the physical appearance is same.
So does the product, like if it's BCC steel or it's FCC, does this affect on the actual product which is produced?
Actual product means you are talking about the property of the actual product or shape, or you are talking about the physical appearance, or what?
No, the property.
Properties, obviously. I have been discussing that. Now, see, suppose you have a ferritic stainless steel and you have a austenitic stainless steel. The property of ferritic stainless steel, which is BCC, and the property of the austenitic stainless steel, which is FCC, is different
Yes, sir.
because of the structure itself. One example I have given you right now, diffusivity property. You understood?
Yes, sir.
And magnetic property, the best example. The
Yes, sir.
ferritic stainless steel will be attracted by the magnet, right? But
Magnet.
the austenitic stainless steel, which is FCC, will be not attracted by the magnetic. It has lost its magnetic property
It's magnetic property.
because of the structure only, because of the
Yes.
arrangement of iron atoms in that particular steel. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Okay, this part, last part, I will not discuss much here, but just you should remember. That means the void, both are octahedral void, material is same, steel or iron, but due to different in shape of the void, the strength is different, right? The carbon atom is going into the same void in both steel, right? But the shape of the void is different, or you can say the structure of the void is different. That's why the strengthening is also different. Basically, if you want to remember, you should remember the ferrite, this BCC iron will become more strong if carbon atom will go into the octahedral void. But in case of FCC, even if you add carbon, the strength will not increase much. In details, we'll be discussing this one in coming lecture. This is important again. Okay, next is structural sensitive versus structural insensitive property. See, this is a very simple thing. The name itself is saying sensitive. Sensitive means the property of a material is whether sensitive or insensitive. That depends upon structure again. There's certain property of a material which will be affected if the structure will get affected. That means if structure will get changed, those property will get affected. They may increase or they may decrease, right? But there are certain properties of material which are not affected by the structure. If you change the structure, the property will not get affected. The best example is the density of material, the elastic modulus, basically. The density, the elastic modulus are not affected by the structure. If you change the structure of the material, even if the density will remain same, the elastic modulus will remain same. But about mechanical properties like strength, toughness, fracture toughness, ductility, those property will be affected if the structure will get affected. Do you people remember any examples I have given you in the earlier lecture? Can you give an example where we can change the structure, we can change the strength or the toughness? Which kind of structure we have to change if we want to increase the strength of the steel or the toughness of the steel? Which one?
Hammering of steel.
Hammering of steel, that's fine. But I am talking about the structure now. Okay, when you do hammering of the steel, microstructure. What kind of microstructure?
Grain.
Sir, there will
Grain
be
size.
grain.
Very good.
Grain.
Grain size, very good. Let me move to that side. This one, if you remember this slide. Right? Steel is same steel, but having different grain size. If you reduce the grain size, then what will happen? The strength will increase, the hardness will increase, the toughness will increase, right?
Yes.
So that means the strength, toughness, hardness are structural sensitive property. Right? Density and the ball modulus is not, elastic modulus is not structural sensitive. They will remain same always. Okay, next topic is solid engineering material classification. Okay, now this part is very important because as I told, everywhere if you look around, all are materials. It may be natural materials, it may be artificial materials, right? But all are materials at the end. So how we can classify the materials? So we can classify, I'm talking about engineering materials because they have engineering applications. That's why I'm talking about engineering materials. Otherwise, everything is a material. It may be engineering or non-engineering, but it is a material at the end. Fine. So the classification of all the materials we have, engineering materials we have, are classified on the basis of their atomic structure, or you can say atomic bonding otherwise, and chemical composition. So what is present in it and how the structure, atomic structure is there. So we can classify the materials into three main categories. First one is the metals and alloys. The second one is the polymers and or elastomers, and that is rubber and elastomers, and last one is the ceramics. So metals, alloys, one part, and the part is polymers, and the part is ceramics. So these are the three main classes of engineering materials. Fine. So now you can see metals and alloys means all the metals in the periodic tables comes under metals, right? If you make an alloy out of that, then it is an alloy, right? So it can be classified as ferrous and non-ferrous. Ferrous means iron is the main constituent. Iron is the main constituent in that, right? So iron and iron-based alloys comes under ferrous. Apart from iron, all other metals or alloys are non-ferrous, like aluminium alloys, zinc alloys, copper alloys. So those are non-ferrous, right? Any other titanium alloys, zirconium alloys, any other metals, right? Apart from iron, they are non-ferrous, right? Next is ceramics and glasses. Yeah, ceramics and glasses comes under same. That is, you can say only ceramics or ceramics and glasses. So here, okay, fine. These are basically compound between non-metals and metallic elements. That means in case of metals, we have only metallic elements basically, and some non-metallic elements may be present in form of impurity, right? But basically in case of ceramics, it is a compound between metallic element and non-metallic element, right? So it is a kind of positive ion and negative ion, right? Like sodium chloride, it has positive sodium chloride ion and negative chlorine ion, right? So examples are carbides, nitrides, borides, and oxides. Okay, let me give an example here. You have to identify it right now. I have aluminium in one hand, in another hand I have alumina, Al2O3. So which one, both are same or different? Shall I repeat? I have alumina in one hand and I have aluminium in another hand. Alumina is Al2O3 and aluminium is Al only, right? So both are same or different material?
Different.
Different, very good. So it comes under which kind of material, which category?
Aluminium, metal and alloys,
Very good.
and alumina under ceramics and glasses.
Very good, excellent. So you should understand. See, the composition is different. In aluminium, we have only aluminium, metal element, right? Metallic element. But in case of alumina, we have metal and non-metal both, and there is a bonding between them, right? Aluminium is metal, oxygen is non-metal, and there is a compound formation between them. So that's why it is a ceramics. So you should not be confused. Whenever a metal become oxide or it become carbide or it become nitride or it become boride, it becomes ceramic. It is okay?
So sulfide.
Yeah, sulfides. Yeah, you can also sulfides maybe comes under the ceramics. Basically, these are the major categories: carbides, nitrides, borides, oxides. Right. So these are the main. But once a metal become compound, you can say it is a ceramic basically. In other way, the property also get changed. The property of aluminium and aluminium oxide is completely different. Aluminium oxide will be brittle, aluminium is ductile. Aluminium is having low melting point, but aluminium oxide has very high melting point. Aluminium is having only 660 degree centigrade melting point, where alumina Al2O3 have 2000 degree melting point. It is okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
For example, titanium carbide. Titanium is a metal. If it becomes titanium carbide, it becomes ceramic. The melting point will change. The mechanical property will get changed, right? Okay, next move to polymers. Polymers, you people use your bands, your knife, kitchen knives. Many things are polymers. We day-to-day life we are using. Or this laptop is made up of polymers. The majority part is polymers. This cell phone, many part, the cell phone cover, many things are made of polymers. The cooler you are using in your home, that is also polymers. So a lot of polymers we have. The polythene, which we carry vegetables, those are polymers. That is banned right now, but that is a polymer. Many things are polymers. Our scooty tires, right? Bike tires, those are polymers. Right? So polymers basically maybe it may be organic, it may be inorganic, but basically here this is what it is written. It is a large molecular structure. You have to remember polymers are basically a large molecule, because if you remember those are made up of small monomer unit. So the exact polymer is a large molecular structure. It has basically chain-like structure, right? And many polymers are organic compounds which contains carbon and hydrogen. Obviously, if it is an organic polymer, it will be having a bonding between carbon and hydrogen, right? And some other non-metallic elements may be present like oxygen, silicon, nitrogen. An example is nylon, PVC, polyethylene, polyester, right? Anyways, now there is a material called composite. You should remember this thing. Composite. Composite is it comes, some people call it is an advanced material. Some people call it is a material only, or it is a hybrid material. Otherwise, you can say, right? Composites actually is a material, engineering materials, which is made up of two different kind of basic materials. Basic materials means metallic materials, ceramics or polymers. So if you combine metal and polymer, it becomes ceramic. If you combine metal and ceramics, it will become a composite. If you combine ceramic polymer, it becomes composite, right? If you combine all these three things, otherwise metals, ceramics, polymers in one material, so it becomes composite. So composite is a combination of any of the above two materials, polymer plus ceramics. Already it is written over here. So why we are making a composite? Can anybody guess? What is the main purpose of making a composite?
So to get high strength and low weight.
Okay, this is one part. Very good. The answer is right. To get high strength and low weight, that is one part. But the thing is what? You can get a combination of property. Suppose you are making a composite out of metal and ceramics. So ceramics have some beautiful property, metals have some beautiful property. But that beautiful property may be absent in two materials, right? So if you combine them, then you will get a combination of property. Some property will come from metal, some property will come from ceramics, and it becomes superior. You understood my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The best example I have written over the recent Boeing. Recent Boeing. You people have any idea about the aircrafts who are the manufacturer? Boeing is a manufacturer, right? Boeing, and the one is Airbus. Yes, I remember the Airbus and Boeing. The plane you sit, those are basically Boeing or those are basically Airbus, right? Those are the manufacturer. So recent Boeing airplane have 50% composite by weight, right? So if you consider the whole weight of the aeroplane, 50% part is made up of 50% weight is made up of this composites only, because it is a superior material. It provides superior properties, right? Earlier they are made up of mainly metallic materials, but now metallic materials has been reduced. Now composite has been introduced into that. Anybody remember which metals are basically used in aeroplane bodies? Which two metals?
Aluminium.
Aluminium.
Aluminium, very good. Any other metals? I am
Titanium.
Titanium.
Titanium, very good. You have remembered. Aluminium, because why? Because aluminium is lighter.
Light in weight.
Yes, very good. It's light in weight. The density is very less. And titanium, what is the benefit of titanium? It has good strength and low weight.
Good strength.
It has good strength and low weight also. Any other property of aluminium? Can you tell
Less
me? What is
density.
lighter? Sorry? Can you repeat?
Less density.
Yeah, that is low weight. Same thing. In other way, I am saying low weight. Fine. It has
So
also.
it can
Yes.
can bear extreme pressure and temperature because
Yeah.
of its of its high melting point.
No. Aluminum have low melting point. 660.
Sorry, low melting point.
Yeah. The property of aluminum is it can sustain the environment. It has good chemical resistivity, resistance to chemicals, resistance to environment, because it forms a strong oxide layer, aluminum oxide on its surface, right? So resistance to corrosion or resistance, you can say aluminum have a property called resistance to corrosion. Corrosion will be not there easily. It will be safe from the environment. Anyways, next category of material is advanced material. So advanced materials are those materials which have high-tech applications, in high technological applications, like in case of cell phones, the laptops, the computers we are using, the military aircrafts, the spacecraft which goes to the moon or any other planets. Those contains advanced materials. Okay, we'll discuss further. Next is the other images. What is this image is showing? Which kind of materials? Can anybody guess?
Metals and alloys.
Yes, metals and alloys. This is copper. This is steel, right? This is maybe aluminium. Yeah, aluminium. Right. Okay. What are these materials? Which category?
Polymers.
Polymers.
Polymers. Rubber and elastomers. Then this one.
Ceramics.
Ceramics. Very good. Okay. Your floor tile. Floor tile is which kind of materials?
Ceramics.
Ceramics. Very good. Then all these three diagrams are showing composites. You can see. So composites. Can anybody figure it out? Composite is made up of two things. One is matrix, and the one is the reinforcement or fillers. That means filler is one type materials, matrix is made up of another type material. Suppose matrix is made up of metallic materials, the fillers may be ceramics, right? So all these are the diagrams of composites. Can you people tell me an example of a composite structure in your building? Let me see who can answer it. A composite structure in your home or in your building where you are staying.
The roof.
Roof, very good, roof.
Pillar.
Can you justify that?
So it has cement and rods, iron
Very
rods.
good, very good. So your rooftop, the building roof is a composite structure. Why? Because it is made up of two different kind of materials. One is the ceramics, the cements, the sand. Those are ceramics, right? Cement, sand. Those are ceramic materials, right? Because they contain oxides, basically. Oxides. And there is a reinforcement. Reinforcement is the steel bar. The steel bar is a metallic materials. It is okay now? You understood?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That means we are combining ceramics and metallic materials here to get a superior property, because metallic materials property here is what? They have high tensile strength, high yield strength, they have high bending strength also, it will not bend easily. And otherwise ceramics have other beautiful properties. They have good compressive strength, they resist the environment easily, they will not deteriorate in the environment, right? And they give you a shape, particular shape you can obtain easily. Okay, anyways, so these are the examples. Now we'll discuss in details metals and alloys. So what are the characteristics and applications, and what is the composition? It is written. Okay. Anyways, already we have discussed this one. The properties. Okay, what are the characteristics property of the metals and alloys? Everybody know in school days they have good strength, toughness, stiffness, ductility. They have good fracture resistance, right? These are the important property of metallic materials, right? They have good thermal and electrical conductivity. Some metals are basically opaque, obviously. Some metals are lustrous like gold or any other metals. If you polish them, they will appear lustrous. Huh? Some metals have magnetic properties like iron, cobalt, nickel. And application part, mostly civil construction, automotive, making tools, household articles like kitchen utensils, cutting industry, machines. Those are made up of metallic materials. Now we have few questions, and I'll discuss the answer here also. These are very interesting properties. Why metals are more denser than ceramic and polymers? So this is a question. That means in other way, I can say metals and alloys have high density compared to that of ceramics and polymers.
Because of its structure.
Because of its structure, very good. Because of it, which kind of atomic structure? Arrangement of atoms. You can see the difference. You can see the difference.
Because of its crystal structure.
Because of its crystal structure.
Not basically crystal structure, but they are of BCC or FCC type because of it. How the arrangements of the atoms are be done in the metals. That's why they are more denser.
The thing is what? If you look at this structure and this structure, which one is a close pack? The top one. First one, obviously. So metals have this kind of arrangement of atoms. So in other way, I can say, since atoms in metals are arranged in ordered fashion, so that's why they are denser, right? But in case of polymer ceramics, they have ordered somewhat. They may not be ordered completely. Disordered. Polymers are basically they have random arrangement of atoms and molecules. Ceramics, okay, it's fine. But in case of metals, the arrangement of atoms are completely ordered, basically. That's why they are more denser. There is a close pack of atoms also due to ordered arrangement, the atoms are closely packed. So density is more, right? Next one is why metals are preferred for structural application like civil structures, making buildings, bridges, and automotive structure like car, trains. Can you tell me?
They
For
can
strength.
withstand high stress.
Yeah, because they have high strength and high toughness, but
Because its
Mechanical and
ductility
depurative
also.
properties.
is good. Okay, you are saying no. The base property in a metal comparison to ceramic and polymer is what? They have high fracture resistance. You have to remember that. Or in other way, I can say they have high fracture toughness. Hmm. So you should understand. Suppose, okay, you take a metal piece in your hand, you take a ceramic material in your hand, and you allow freely to fall on your floor. So what will happen to the metal and what will happen to the ceramic?
The mostly ceramic will break, but not the metal.
Obviously, ceramic will be easily broken down into pieces, right? But in case of metal, it will nothing will happen, right? So that means in case of metallic materials, the crack which is already present in the material or the crack which will form otherwise, the moment there is an impact, what will happen? It will not easily propagate, right? But in case of ceramic materials, the crack will easily propagate and leads to failure or leads to fracture of the material into pieces. So the point is what? That's why in case of structural materials, we are using metallic materials. Basically, you can see the building is made up of steels. Steel is a metallic material, right? So they have, obviously they have high strength, one part, right? They have high yield strength, high tensile strength, right? But in other way, you have to say they have high fracture resistance. Resistance to fracture is good in metallic materials, right? Polymers, okay, fine. They have some fracture resistance, but it is not comparable to that of the metallic materials, fine. But ceramics, they have very poor fracture resistance, or resistance to fracture is very poor in ceramics. The crack once formed, it will easily propagate and leads to failure or leads to fracture of the ceramics into pieces, many pieces. I think you people have understood this one.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
the answer actually lies behind the ductility part. You have to remember, metals are highly ductile, basically. All metals are not, but maximum metals we are dealing with, like iron, titanium, aluminium, copper, they're highly ductile. Gold, silver, right? So this due to this ductility property, this property is coming, that is resistance to fracture. The crack cannot easily propagate due to this ductility nature. Instead of that, it try to plastically deform. Okay, this is not the right time to discuss that. We'll discuss that in coming lecture again. So why, next question is why metals have good thermal and electrical conductivity? Can you tell me?
Due to presence of unpaired electrons.
Due to presence of unpaired electrons. Anybody else want
Because
to
they
speak?
are closely packed.
Closely packed atom.
I'm talking about thermal conductivity and
No,
electrical conductivity.
electrons move freely in case
Electron
of
movements
metals.
freely. Very good, very good. Yes. Because if you carefully look into the atomic structure and yeah, basically the atomic structure, we can able to see lot of free electrons are present in the metals, right? So free electrons means what? Free electrons means these electrons are free to move inside the material anywhere, right? One part of the material to another part, they can freely move the moment you apply electric field or the moment you rise the temperature, right? In other way, I can say the electrons in metallic materials are not localized. They are not localized to a particular atom. They can move freely, right? So because of this unlocalized electron or not localized electron, these electrons are free. They will conduct this electricity and thermal property. It is okay now?
Yes, sir.
The last question, why metals are not brittle but relatively ductile than polymer and ceramics?
Because they don't break easily.
Yeah, brittle means they will break easily. If it is ductile, it will not break easily. Rather than it will stretch, or rather than it will elongate. There is an increase in the length or width, right? That is ductility. But brittleness means it will not elongate, or it will not stretch, rather than it will break into pieces or it get failed. Because of these free electrons. Because you understand, because of basically due to this bonding, metallic bonding. These electrons are not localized in metallic materials, right? They are free to move. So the bonding is also very strong, and the electron can easily flow, right? So due to this unlocalized electron, due to this atomic bonding, and bonding between the electrons and nucleus, so they have a ductility property, right? That is called metallic bonding, basically. Okay, anyways, next is ceramics characteristics, composition, atomic structure. Okay, I'll remove this one. Required. So now, property of ceramics. So already I have told you that property of ceramics, the best property of ceramics is the compressive strength. The metals have high tensile strength, but the ceramics have high compressive strength. Because if you pull a metal, it will not break easily. Similarly, if you push a ceramic, it will not break easily. But if you pull a ceramics, it will break easily, right? And the thing is, it has high stiffness also. So high compressive strength and high stiffness. And ceramics are also very hard, but they are brittle. And they have good wear resistance also. You have to remember, these are the beautiful properties of the ceramics metal. They are very harder. They are stiffer. They have high compressive strength. They have high good wear resistance. Or okay. Next is basically insulators. Okay, ceramics are basically insulator. They do not conduct, but some ceramics are there. They conduct electricity also. And they are advanced ceramics. Another interesting point is ceramics have high resistance to chemicals and harsh environment. And ceramics also good for high temperature applications sometimes, not always, depending upon the area of application. It is important. Why? Because ceramics have very high melting point. You have to remember, the melting point of ceramics are very high compared to that of metals. And few ceramics are ferromagnetic, few ceramics are transparent. Application is, you understand, the flower vase, glass vase, bricks, tiles. These are the examples of the ceramic materials. Now, what is the similarity and dissimilarity between ceramics and metals? Similarity is metals and ceramics both have good hardness value, both have good stiffness value, right? But dissimilarity is important. This part is very important. Dissimilarity. Metals are ductile, but ceramics are brittle, right? If you consider impact strength, the impact strength is good for which material? Can you tell me? Just before I have given an example. You allow metal and a tile to fall freely on the floor. There is an impact. So which metals have good impact strength? Basically, metals have good impact strength. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You remember, if impact strength is the main concern, then you have to use metallic materials, because metallic material have good impact strength, right? It can absorb a lot of energy, right? But in case of ceramics, it will broken into pieces easily, right? So metals have high ductility, metals have high impact strength. Fracture resistance, which one will have high fracture resistance? Fracture toughness is high.
Metal.
Metals, alloys, right? Suppose you will fire a bullet to a ceramic material, in other way you fire a bullet to a metallic materials. So if a good metallic materials will be there, then the bullet cannot penetrate easily, or it cannot penetrate to a large distance, right? But in case of ceramic materials, it will fracture into pieces the moment you fire a bullet onto it, right? So that means you can call metallic materials have high fracture resistance or fracture toughness. The crack will not propagate easily in case of metallic materials because of the ductility nature. Next one is resistance to chemicals. Here ceramics have a good resistance to chemicals basically. Metallic materials do not resist towards chemicals. It will get deteriorate or it will get corroded easily. But few alloys have superior properties to chemicals, like aluminum alloys are good sometimes. Aluminum alloys, titanium alloys sometimes. Then resistance to very high temperature, obviously the metallic materials, some metallic materials can resist high temperature, as I called them as super alloys. All materials cannot, right? But ceramic materials can resist high temperature because of their high melting point. And thermal and electrical conductivity, obviously metallic materials have high thermal and electrical conductivity, but ceramic materials do not have this property. So we are discussing all these things because you can understand the conclusion of this part is what? Selection of material is very important. So selection of any materials depends upon the what? Can you tell me how, on what basis you can select a material for a particular application? The first thing what you have to do, or what you have to look into that. First of all, you have to check the what? Check the condition. Check the condition means what kind of environment is there, right? Whether it is a corrosive environment or not, whether the temperature is high or low, room temperature, whether whether there is an impact loading is there or not, right? Whether there is a tensile loading is there or not, right? So all whether we need a electricity or not, flow of electricity is required or not, right? Flow of heat is required or not, right? First of all, we have to check the environment where we have to put the material. We have to check the environment first. After checking the environment, then we have to check the properties of the materials. That property is suitable or not, right? After checking the property of the materials, if the material property is suitable for that particular environment, then we have to use that. And the thing you have to look into that is whether that property will remain same or it will change. Again, you have to look into that. Or you have to check the stability of the property. The property is getting stable or it is getting unstable with the environment, with the time also. If the property will get deteriorate with time quickly, then you should not use that material. The property should be remain stable for a more interval of time. I think you people have understood how to select a material for a engineering application.
Yes, sir.
The first one you have to look into is the environmental conditions. What kind of condition is there? Second, you have to look into is the property of the material and whether the property is suitable or not. And third one is the if property is suitable, even if you have to check the stability of the property, whether the property is remaining stable or it is getting changed or it is getting deteriorate, right? So selection of material is very important. So we are the people who can select a material for a particular application, right? Polymers, okay. Polymers already I have discussed. The examples, it is written over here, the helmet, rubber tires, plastic jars, jugs, right? And the important property of the polymer you have to remember is the low density or lightweight. That's the most important property of the polymer, right? Second one is it is flexible. We can make very complicated shape out of a polymer easily, right? Because of its flexibility and because of its ductile and plastic nature, right? And it is sometimes resistant to few chemicals. This is also very good property of a polymer. But the main limitation of the polymer is, this is the main limitation. If you raise the temperature of a polymer at a low temperature also, it will become soft. Then it may decompose at high temperature, right? So this is the main limitation of a polymer. So polymer are not chosen for high temperature applications. You have to remember. Either you choose a metal or you have to choose a ceramic, depending upon the nature of the temperature or prevailing conditions. Okay, let me give an example. Suppose you are working in an industry where you are operating a furnace. So inside the furnace, the temperature is very high, right? So the outer shell of the furnace will be made up of metal or ceramic. Can you tell me? the inside part of the furnace structure, where the temperature is very high, where the high temperature chemical reaction is going on, the inside part of the furnace will be made of ceramic or metal or metallic
Ceramic.
materials. Ceramics, very good, right? Ceramics can withstand very high temperature because they have very high melting point, right? Similarly, suppose a turbine blade, turbine blade where the temperature is very high also, and stresses are also acting. Lot of load and stresses are acting. So you have to choose a ceramic or you have to choose a metallic material there.
So metallic.
Very good. Why metallic materials? Can you justify that?
So because of high pressure.
Yes, because of high pressure. Then which property you are talking about now? You need to talk about a property.
So fracture toughness.
Very good. Fracture toughness. That is the answer. Because lot of stresses are also acting, right? That means in turbine blade, both things are acting. Temperature is acting, high temperature, and the one is the stresses are acting. Lot of stresses are there, right? So due to action of temperature and stresses, if you use a ceramic, the ceramics will easily get failed because it cannot withstand lot of stresses. They have low fracture toughness. The resistance to fracture is very less. The crack will easily propagate in case of ceramics. It can withstand high temperature, no problem, but it cannot withstand the stresses easily. It will fracture. That means, in other way, I can say where there is thermal shock, we should not use ceramics. But if there is thermal shock, then we can use metallic materials. I think you people have understood up to this.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So next is advantage of metal, ceramics, polymers. Okay. So you can see these are the advantages of the metallic materials. These are the advantages of ceramics. These are the advantages of the polymers, which already I have discussed that. You can have a look at this slide. For a few moments, you can have a look. If you have any questions here, you can ask me right now. So selection of the material will depend upon these properties. That's why we have discussed a lot of properties here. Okay, next move to the composite materials. Already I have discussed that composite material is that kind of material which contains two different kind of materials or more than two different kind of materials. Different kind of materials means each material have different property to another materials. Property means it may be mechanical properties, it may be chemical properties or physical properties. Basically, for engineering application, we consider basically this mechanical properties and this for structural application. If it is a functional, then it is different, obviously. Right? So you have to remember, as I told, in a composite material, we have two things. One is the matrix phase, and the phase is the reinforcement. Reinforcement is also called fillers or fibers, right? Let me show you the image again. Let's have a look. This is a matrix. This is a matrix, and this is a reinforcement. This material property and this material property are different. The moment you add fibers into the matrix, it will become a composite. So which part is which part is the majority part? The matrix or fiber?
So matrix.
If you measure the weight of fiber and matrix, which weight will be more always?
Matrix.
Obviously matrix. You have to remember matrix weight will be always more, right? And matrix is a continuous phase. You just look at the image and see this is a matrix and reinforcement is there, right? So white part is the matrix, blue part is the reinforcement or fillers or viscous, here it is written, or particulates, right? So matrix phase is always a continuous phase, but reinforcement may not be a continuous phase. It is a discontinuous phase always. Basically it is a discontinuous phase. Fibers, reinforcement, fillers are discontinuous phase basically, and basically The matrix phase is always a continuous phase. So can you people tell me, if you apply a load on this material, the load will be what happens to the load? The load will get distributed. You have to remember, the moment you apply a load on a matrix, the matrix will distribute the load on the fibers or the reinforcement. That means the main load carrying capacity depends upon the fiber materials. You have to remember. That's why fibers are more steeper, more stronger. You have to remember. The property or nature of the fibers are they are more steeper, more stronger compared to the matrix material. Matrix material are basically ductile or plastic, or they are softer compared to relative to that of the fibers. So the moment we apply load on the composite materials, the matrix distributed the load on the fibers. So fiber are the material which will carry the load, load carrying capacity they have, right? And matrix provide a continuous phase. They keep the fibers in a pattern, in a uniform way, right? And also matrix protect the fibers from the environment, right? And the property of matrix is it protects the fibers from the environment, or from the degradation, or from the external environment, right? I think you people have understood, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Like the steel, like your roof, building roof. Building roof is made up of steel bars and the cement, or the mixture of cements and right. So that means here the ceramics is there and metallic part is there. So the main load carrying capacity will be who is main load carrying who will take the load here in case of the roof. In case of the roof building, who will carry the load, load carrying capacity? Obviously the steel, yes or no? The steel bars will carry the load actually, right? In case of a breeze, again I'm talking about a breeze, civil breeze. So the breeze is also made up of same, the steel bars and the mixture of cement, sand and water, right? So the matrix part is the cement, sand, the concrete part, right? But the reinforcement, the steel will carry the load. A lot of car, trucks, people are moving on the breeze, right? That means this concrete will distribute the load onto the steel bars, right? In other way, you can say that this concrete is a continuous phase and the steel bar is a discontinuous phase. In other way, and you can say the concrete will protect the steel from the environment, so that the steel will not get corroded easily with less interval of time. Okay, so these are the similarity and dissimilarity is over. Fine. Okay, now, okay, what is the objective of the making composite? Already I have talked about this one. What is the objective of making composite?
To get the best property of both the materials we are using to make the
Yes,
composite.
very good. To get the best property of the both materials. Okay, let me give some examples. Why? Because this is the concern because individual metal do not, or individual materials may not have all the properties, right? That's why. Because already I have shown you individual materials. I have shown you the property of metals, property of ceramics, property of polymers. They do not, all materials do not possess all the properties, useful properties for an application, right? So we need to combine them so that we can get the desirable properties. Examples are very important for your examination or for any interviews. So first example is Surmet. Sur means ceramics, met means metals. So you can understand Surmet is an example of composite because two different materials are present, metals and ceramics are present, right? The Surmet examples here I have written. The ceramic materials may be tungsten carbide, chromium carbide, titanium carbides. These are the ceramics materials which are embedded in the, or they are mixed with the metallic materials like aluminum, nickel, cobalt or molybdenum. So if you mix aluminum with tungsten carbide, or if you mix tungsten carbide with cobalt, it will become a Surmet. It will become a composite, right? Tungsten carbide is a ceramic, Cobalt is a metal, right? They have a very good property. So can you people tell me which kind of property comes from tungsten carbide? Which property will comes from cobalt? If you are making a tool, a drilling tool otherwise, or a cutting tool out of this tungsten carbide and cobalt, so which property is important here, and which property comes from tungsten carbide, which property comes from cobalt? Can anybody guess? Otherwise, shall I repeat the question?
So can you just repeat the question?
The question was, if you want to make a drilling tool otherwise, or cutting tool. So in that case, if you make a metal out of cobalt, which is a metallic material, and a tungsten carbide, then which property is important, and which property comes from tungsten carbide, which important property comes from cobalt?
So resistance to temperature comes from tungsten carbide.
Okay.
Sir, fracture toughness comes from the metal.
Cobalt. Very good.
Yes.
That is one part is fracture toughness. Obviously, that is one part. If you talk about wear resistance, wear means it is a kind of material removal from the surface, right? With time, the material will remove from the surface. The material become thinner. The dimension of material will reduced due to relative motion between the two bodies, right? So if it is a drilling machine or drilling tool, so who will provide this wear resistance property? Cobalt or tungsten carbide?
Cobalt.
Sorry?
Cobalt.
Cobalt, do you, what I have told you earlier, look at the properties here. Otherwise, look at this one. What is this? Ceramics materials have good wear resistance, already I have told you. So which one is the ceramic material? Tungsten carbide is the ceramics material here, right? Tungsten carbide will provide you resistance to the wear, right? The fracture resistance or fracture toughness will be provided by the cobalt. And if you talk about hardness, tungsten carbide is more harder, right, compared to that of this cobalt. Cobalt is having some hardness value, obviously, but tungsten carbide is more harder. Okay, so next is animal bones. Our human body bones are also a composite material. You have to remember, this is a natural composite. It is made up of a mineral, that is calcium phosphate mineral. That is, the nature of calcium phosphate mineral is different to that of the collagen. Collagen is the protein, insoluble fibrous protein. So if you combine collagen and this hydroxyapatite, it will give rise to your bone, right? Or animal bone or human bone. All are made up of, all are composite materials actually, because they have different kind of material, hydroxyapatite and collagen. Because nature of this collagen is different to that of the nature of the hydroxyapatite, right? Similarly, the wood which is the bed, your bed in your bedroom, right? Wooden bed. So that is a composite. Your door, that is a composite. So wood are also composite. Why? Because they are made up of two different materials. One is cellulose fiber, one is lignin. Again, wood is a natural composite. Okay, next, man-made composites. Those are fiberglass. Fiberglass means glass fiber is present and polymer is present. So can you people tell me, in a fiberglass composite, which one is a matrix and which one is a reinforcement? Let me see who can answer.
Sir, glass fiber is a matrix.
Glass fiber is matrix.
Glass
What
fiber
do you
is
think? Can you
fiber.
repeat? Yeah, can you answer? Can you repeat?
So glass fiber is the actual fiber. The matrix is that because glass is known as the super cool liquid, so that is the matrix.
you people didn't get the concept right now. Few minutes before, I am talking about that composite material is made up of two kind of materials, right? Both material are of different nature, right? Different
Yes,
properties.
sir.
And again, I have told that one phase is called matrix phase, which is a continuous phase, which is basically ductile or soft, right? And in other way, I told that they have reinforcement fillers, right, which are stiffer, stronger, or harder, right? So which one is harder? Polymer is harder, or stiffer, or glass fiber is stiffer and harder?
Glass
Glass
fiber.
Poly,
fiber.
Glass
glass
fiber.
fiber.
Glass fiber is cheaper and harder. So
Stiffer
glass
and
fiber
harder.
will be matrix or will be reinforcement?
Reinforcement.
Reinforcement.
Obviously reinforcement, right? So you will having a polymer matrix and a reinforcement of glass fibers. Because glass fiber is brittle, is stronger, harder, stiffer. But polymer is somewhat ductile, plastic, right? So you can now these kind of materials are used in case of your automobiles. Automobiles are made up of this fiber glass. And also your the suitcase, the expensive suitcases, right? The trolley bags, which are polymeric trolley bags, they are also made of this fiberglass materials, composites. You can see those. You might have seen. You should think of that. This is a polymer, but this is not exactly polymer. Inside this polymers, you have this glass fiber, right? Because the strengthening will come
Yes,
from
sir.
this one. The strength, the hardness value is coming from this one, but the flexibility will come from this polymer, right? So you understand the flexibility will come from this polymer, the strength will come from this glass fiber, right? Similarly,
Yes, sir.
CAFRP, carbon fiber reinforced polymer or plastic, some people call it. So carbon fiber reinforced polymer means which one is matrix and which one is the reinforcement?
Polymer is matrix, carbon fiber is reinforcement.
Yes, very good. Carbon fiber are stronger than steel. You can understand. The fibers made up of carbon, very thin hair-like carbon fibers, are stronger than steels. You can imagine. So if those will be embedded into a polymer, what will happen? The strength will be very high, flexibility will be there, and any other advantage you will get out of this CFRP. Suppose this carbon fiber reinforced polymer are used in aeroplane. So which property will be important? Or in aircrafts?
So they can withstand high pressure.
Lightweight and corrosion.
Lightweight, excellent. So you understand, if you are making an aeroplane, you choose a material which should be lighter, which should have low density. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So the main property of polymer is what?
Flexibility or lightweight.
Flexibility and lightweight, low density. So one property is fulfilled, right? Carbon fiber, the interesting point about carbon fiber is it is also very low weight, but in other way it is very strong. So that means you will get a combination of property. You will get lightweight, you will get flexible material, you will get a very strong materials if you combine them, right? Next one is, but the problem is not carbon fibers are very expensive. You have to remember this point. It is very expensive. To make carbon fiber is costly. Then carbon fiber reinforced polymer plastic are used in aeroplane. Okay, it is already written over here. Bicycles. So these bicycles will be costly. Obviously, the tennis rackets, gold club, all these things. Advanced material. Now, what is an advanced material? Advanced materials are those materials which find application in high technological applications, which have very high technical applications, like smartphones, computers, aircrafts, military aircrafts, military vehicles, and if you look into those spacecrafts, so those structures or those area we are using advanced materials. So advanced materials are of four types. One is semiconductor materials, and one is biomaterials, smart materials, and non-nano engineered materials. These are the four categories of advanced materials. So semiconductor materials, you people know. Can you people give an example of semiconductor materials we have?
So silicon, germanium.
Silicon, germanium. Yes, very good. So silicon and germanium in the periodic tables are easily identified as semiconductors, right? Because their conductivity or resistivity lies in between metals and non-metals, right? And you have to remember, semiconductor materials are highly sensitive towards the impurities. If you add impurities into them, those impurities are technically called what? Anybody remember in school days? You might have gone through this semiconductors, I remember. Dopant.
Doping.
Yes or no? Dopant. If you add dopant into the semiconductors, their electrical conductivity will be affected. That's why we have two type of semiconductor, N-type and P-type, right? In P-type, holes are the major charge carrier, and in
Yes,
N-type, electrons are the main charge
electrons
carrier.
are major charge carriers.
Right. This P-type and N-type semiconductors are called intrinsic semiconductor. Sorry, extrinsic semiconductor. And
Extrinsic.
pure silicon and germanium are intrinsic. Right. And the point here it is written, yes. The application area of semiconductors are what? They're used in electronics devices. Integrated
Electronics, chips
circuits.
and electronics devices.
Yes, any gadgets, electronic gadgets, they have semiconductor materials. The solar panel, those are also having this semiconductor materials, right? Okay, next is biomaterials. Biomaterials are very interesting. Suppose a person is like he or she made an accident, fine, and any fracture has happened, severe fracture, or any severe damage has happened to his body or her body, right? So the doctor will suggest that you go for an implantation. You have to implant some materials into your body, right, to maintain that structure. Sometimes you have heard about hip replacement, right? The hip of our body will completely replaced by a materials. Those are called biomaterials. Sometimes certain body part, like your thigh bone, they may some metallic materials will be implanted over there, right? For few period of time or for lifetime also sometimes. So those are actually biomaterials. So biomaterials are those materials which will survive in the body, which are not harmful for our bodies also. It will not deteriorate inside our body, or it may not produce any chemicals or harmful chemicals in our body. So those terms are called biocompatible. So biomaterials are those materials which are biocompatible. It will not damage our body if it is implanted, right? The best examples, see, you have to remember, we can implant any polymer, we can implant a metallic materials, we can implant a ceramics into our body. So those are actually biomaterials. Those are selected very carefully. We cannot implant any materials into our body. We have to make an alloy out of it. We have to design a particular ceramics. We have to design a particular polymers, which will not affect our body, right? It should not react with the body fluid also, right? So one example is the 6 aluminum 4 vanadium alloy, which is used for total hip replacement. The total hip can be replaced by 6 aluminum 4 vanadium alloy. This is a metallic material, right? Similarly, titanium and tantalum alloys are used for orthopedic purpose. And we sometimes use these stainless steels also, special stainless steels in our body. And this is interesting, ZTA, zirconia toughened alumina. So this is also a composite. Behavior of zirconia is different to that of alumina. Not completely different, somewhat different. So we are mixing zirconia and aluminum. This can be implanted into our body for a particular purpose. You can see 75% alumina is present and 25% zirconia is present. Here actually alumina provides the resistance to wear, or it provides abrasion resistance kind of thing, but zirconia provide toughness actually. This is used for deep implantation. Okay. Next is the smart material. Smart material is the most important material nowadays. People are doing a lot of research nowadays on smart material. Smart materials means it is also called intelligent material because they have intelligence. They have good intelligence, right? They remember things. Even other way, I can say they remember things, or they remember the initial structures. Sometimes you can say, or in other way, you can say they show a response to the environment. Suppose there is a change in temperature, so they will show a particular response to the change in temperature, whether we are cooling or whether we are heating, right? Similarly, if you change the electric field around them, they will show a particular response. If you change a magnetic field around them, they will show a response, right? So these smart materials are those materials which shows some response to the external stimuli, basically, like to the change in temperature, to the change in electric field, to the change in magnetic field, right? So these are very smart or intelligent materials, right? So there is a point I have written over here. Sensors and actuators are components of a smart material system. Suppose you have a smart material system, then you have two components. One is sensor, one is actuator. Actuator is actually a smart material. Sensor may be a different material. So sensor function is to sense the external stimuli or to sense the input signal. But actuator do what? Actuator is actually a smart material which will show a response to that input signal, right? It may do what? It may change its shape, it may change its position, it may change its natural frequency, or it may show some mechanical characteristics change. So these are the changes it might do in it. Now it is written actuator may be of any of these four materials. So that means shape memory, alloy, piezoelectric ceramics, magnetostrictive, magnetorheological fluids, all are the smart material examples. There is a data, this is a reference actually. I've taken a reference from this. You can see the property of zirconia and property of zirconia toughened alumina. You can see the Poisson's ratio and the modulus of elasticity. This is the property of alumina. This is the property of zirconia. When you add them, make a composite. So zirconia toughened alumina, the property of the is like this. The Poisson's ratio is this one. You can see there is an in between Poisson's ratio, and there is a in between modulus of elasticity. And there is a beautiful statement here. You can see zirconia particles which are finely distributed in a stable alumina matrix will change phase from tetragonal to monoclinic once there is a crack. This is very interesting. So in zirconia toughened alumina, if there will be a crack, then what will happen? The zirconia particle will change its structure, change its phase, tetragonal to monoclinic. So this phase change increase the particle volume up to approximately 5%, which helps reduce energy consumption and can stop crack propagation by closing the crack space. You people have understood how interesting this material is?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is very interesting, right?
Yes, sir.
In this material, if there will be a crack formation, what will happen? The crack propagation will be not there much. Why? Because of this zirconia particles. Zirconia particles will do what? It will change its volume. It will increase its volume, right? How it will increase its volume? By changing the phase or changing the crystal structure. The tetragonal crystal structure will convert it into monoclinic the moment it will find any crack. So it is very interesting, right? So crack propagation will be not there. That means it will provide toughness, fracture toughness to the alumina matrix, right? That means if only alumina will be there, what will happen? Can you tell me? If there will be a crack in the alumina, if there will be no zirconia particles, what will happen to the alumina? If only single alumina will be there and there will be a crack formation, what will happen?
The crack will increase.
The crack will easily propagate.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, the crack will easily propagate. Alumina is a ceramic material, is a brittle material, right? Completely. Once a crack will form, it will easily propagate. But if zirconia particles are there, then it can stop the crack. So that's why I told zirconia provide fracture toughness to the alumina matrix. So that's why it is zirconium toughened alumina is a composite material, you can say. Anyways, then these are some important points here. These are smart materials examples. Shape memory alloy, you can see after deforming this alloy, when it is heated, it gains its original shape. Very interesting. Maybe I'll show you some videos in the coming class. So that means what? Suppose you have a straight bar of a shape memory alloy, you bend it by your hand, but the moment you hit it again, it will come back to its original shape. It will become straight again. How interesting it is, you can understand. That means this shape memory alloys means this alloy have a memory which that means it remember its original shape. That means my shape was straight initially, and the moment you bend it and you hit it again, it will come back to its original straight shape, right? It is interesting or not? Just by hitting it, it has been come into original shape. So that's why many cars are made up of shape memory alloy these days. Because the moment you hit another car, there will be a dent. Yes or no? There will be a dent in the car body, right? And if you just hit that part only, do not have to strike it with a hammer or anything else. You just hit it. What will happen? Again, it will come back to its original shape. You can understand how interesting it is. Then piezoelectric materials are very interesting. If you apply pressure on the piezoelectric material, then it will produce electricity. Just by applying a mechanical force, it is producing electricity, right? Similarly, if you provide an electricity to the piezoelectric materials, it will change its shape. It will change its shape. It may contract or expand. Similarly, magnostatic materials which expands or contract in response to the applied magnetic field. The electro-rheological fluids, they in response to the applied electric field, these fluids change its viscosity. And magneto-rheological fluids, these fluids are very interesting. They change its viscosity due to change in the magnetic field, right? So that means smart materials are those materials which shows response to the change in temperature, to the change in pressure, to the change in the magnetic field, to the change in electrical field, right? An example of shape memory alloy is the nitinol. If you want to write, you can write nitinol. Nitinol is an alloy of nickel and titanium. 50% nickel, 50% titanium will be there. Piezoelectric materials, the best example is crystalline form of silica, quartz. Quartz is a natural material. And I don't remember this example right now. You can check it from the internet. Okay, so this is the end of this today's lecture. If you have any questions, you can ask me right now. So in between that, I would like to show you some images of those precipitates and all. Have a look. Just have a look of the precipitates in a material. Can you tell me which part is matrix and which part is precipitate over here? This is a steel. This is a microstructure of steel which has taken with the help of a scanning electron microscope, I think. Yes. 1 micrometer. Yes, scanning electron microscope. Anyway. Can you tell me which one is the precipitate here and which one is the matrix? Just looking at the colors, or just looking at the brightness or darkness. Just tell me.
Sir, gray is the
white.
matrix.
White is
the precipitate.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
So this is the matrix. The darker portion is the matrix. The lighter portion is the precipitates. These precipitates are secondary phases. They will also affect the property of the steel if it will be there, or in any material. See, precipitate will be there, right? It is also written over here. You can see M23C6 kind of precipitates. You can see the precipitates. We have different shape also, and different size of the precipitate. That means also I have told you the size and shape of the phases also matters if you are considering the property, right? Similarly, okay, let me show you some inclusions right now. Okay, just have a look at the inclusions. These are some, you can see sulfide inclusion. This is a sulfide inclusions present. The shape of the sulfide inclusions, you can see that it is a sharper say. It is a elongated one and having a sharp end. You can see having a sharp end. Some edges are also sharper. And some inclusions are globular oxides. You can see these are globular inclusions, spherical kind of inclusions here present. So can you people tell me in which case you have good ductility and in which case we have less ductility? This kind of inclusions will be present and this kind of inclusion is present in same steel. Can you tell me? Or in which case the fracture will move easily? The fracture will move easily in this case or in this case, if this kind of inclusion will be there in the steel and if this kind of inclusions will be there in the same steel. Which one is having better property and which one is having poor property?
The first one as well.
This first one will be having good property or poor property?
Poor?
Good.
Poor property. And this one?
Good.
Good property. So how you can justify this one will be having good property and this one will be having poor property? In just by looking at the shape of the inclusions, yes or no, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate it further? Can you justify it? I told you in the previous lecture, if you remember, about the cast iron. In the cast iron, we have elongated graphite flakes and we can have also spherical graphite flakes. What is the difference between them? I told you earlier.
They
And
are
also I have
uniformly
given you an example
distributed.
where, yes.
They are uniformly distributed in
That is,
spherical.
forget about that. Uniformly distributed, forget about that. Anything else about the shape? I told you. What happens to the stress concentration? When you apply load on the materials, there will be some stresses acting on the inclusions, right? So what will happen to the stresses on the inclusions? The stresses on the inclusions will be uniform here, right? These are spherical particles. The stresses on the inclusions will be somewhat uniform. But here what will happen? The stresses will be not uniform. The stresses will be more at the what?
Edges.
Yes.
More at the edges. Why? Because this is very sharp. You understand my point? These are sharp edges. The stress concentration will be more at the sharp edges. So what will happen? If the stress will be concentrated at this point, what will happen? The crack will propagate easily.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right? But here the stresses will be uniform, means the crack propagation will be not easier because the stresses has been uniformly distributed around these particles. Right? So you have to remember always this one, right? So that's why we try to always prevent any sharp edges, any sharp corners in the materials. While we are designing any materials, we try to prevent. Okay, how many of you have seated in a flight? I think many of you have already seated in a flight, right? In an aeroplane, right? Have you ever seen the window panel? Have you ever carefully look at the window panel? Have you ever seen?
Yes, sir.
The window panels are sharp corners or it is having a curve?
Curve.
Curve, right. Why? Can you justify this one? The same answer. The answer is
So
same.
because if we put stress there, it won't break the, glass.
The thing is what?
Because
If
stress will be distributed evenly.
Yeah, the thing is what? If there will be a sharp corners in the window of the aeroplane, you understand aeroplane is traveling at a very high velocity, right? very high velocity. So there are a lot of stresses acting on the aeroplane due to this friction, due to this clouds, right? Due to these water particles, right?
Yes,
Due
sir.
to the air, particles in the air, maybe, right? So if there will be sharp edges, the concentration of stress will be not uniform. It will be more at the corners point, sharp edges, right? Edges point or sharp corner point. It may leads to casualty. Obviously, the fracture will start over here only. That's why nowadays we are not using any sharp corners in the structures. We basically use curved corners, or there is a very we prevent the sharp corners basically, right? Anyways, so this is for the today's topic. If you have any other questions, you can ask me. Yeah, you can clear your doubts right now, no problem.